I'm filming today from my front porch. The sun has finally come out and it is so beautiful. And so I just thought I would share with you in some of that glory. Look at those fluffy clouds. And while we're at it, here are my tulips. I hope that you're able to enjoy some of this spring weather from home, especially those of you who are athletes and can't do spring sports right now. I'm thinking of you. All right, so I'm going to be filming on my deck today because as you can see, it is a beautiful day and I just have to be outside. Can we have class outside? The answer is yes. Take this video and watch it outside if the weather is still nice when you finally watch it. So chapter 7 is an incredible chapter. So much happens. Big verbal fight, car accident, a lot of drama. And I'm going to intersplice this video with movie clips from the Robert Redford version. I will say that the sound is, there's a slight sound delay and I apologize for that, but I still think hearing and seeing the drama will help aid in your understanding of what's going on. So chapter 7 begins with the increased interest in Gatsby's notoriety, how he's made money, and you know, I mentioned that Tom was going to make an investigation of Gatsby. So since he's reunited with Daisy, his mission has been accomplished. So Gatsby just stops throwing parties and he fires his servants because Daisy comes over quite often in the afternoons, and he and Daisy are having a romance now. Some are loving. And so when Nick asks about it, Gatsby explains what's going on, and then they agree they're gonna have lunch at the Buchanan's the next day, and it ends up being the hottest day of the summer. Typically, if we're looking at objective correlative, like I mentioned in a previous video, the weather emulates the mood, so the heat of the day is going to parallel the heightened tempers that are going to emerge in this chapter. So there's going to be like a fight. And also, there's no air conditioning, so you'll see in the video and you just know they're sweating profusely, yet they're still upper class, so they have to wear suits and everything, so they're pretty uncomfortable. Chapter 7 parallels chapter 1 in a lot of ways when Nick first goes over to the Buchanan's, because Daisy and Jordan, bottom of 115, they're lying on an enormous couch, silver idols weighing down their own white dresses against the singing breeze of fans. So it's very similar to the first chapter when Nick came in and they were lying down idly and Tom was the anchor to their balloons. Gatsby comes in and the phone rings and it's Tom's girl, but actually it's not Myrtle this time, it's Wilson, and he's inquiring about that car. But regardless, it's just like chapter 1 when we discovered that Tom was having an affair. And so when Tom leaves to go take the phone call, Daisy gets up and she kisses Gatsby right on the mouth. So I'm going to stop right here so that you can see that scene in the movie.
The sun's getting hotter every year. Seems that the earth is going to fall into the sun. Actually, it's just the opposite of that. The sun is getting colder every year.
Excuse me, sir. Mr. Davis Goff is on the telephone.
Oh, yes. Excuse me.
You forget there's a lady present.
Huh? Oh, you kiss Nick, too.
What a low, vulgar girl.
I don't care.
It's a pretty saucy little scene there. But it's immediately followed by the arrival of Daisy and Tom's baby, our little girl Pammy. The reaction that's important is Gatsby's. He stares at her. He kept looking at the child with surprise. Nick thinks, I don't think he ever really believed in its existence before. Well, the proof of the child is proof that Daisy and Tom did love each other at least once. And right there she asks, where's Daddy? And Daisy quickly says, she doesn't look like her father. She's got my hair and shape of face, you know, trying to cover it up, but it's too late. You know, Gatsby's seen Pammy. So as soon as Daisy stares at Gatsby in front of Tom and she says to him, you look so cool. She says, you always look so cool. Tom realizes they're having an affair. And she might as well have said in front of him, I love you, you know. And so he says, all right, let's go into the city. We're going to the plaza. One of your assignments on Canvas will be to click on a link to learn more about the Plaza Hotel, and I'm going to try and make that for like 100 points, just so you can read about it and get some points. So stay tuned. So the three men go outside to load up the cars, and the ladies are inside, I guess, freshening up. And then Tom runs in to get some whiskey. So it's just Nick and Gatsby outside. And we finally get the answer to the mystery of Daisy's voice. And that's when Nick says, you know, Daisy has an indiscreet voice. And he says, it's full of, and Gatsby says, it's full of money. So I'm going to pause right here so that you can see the scene where when Tom comes back out, they argue over which car to take. Now remember, Gatsby drives an iconic yellow car, and Tom drives a blue car that he's considering selling to Wilson. If you remember, Daisy has a green light at the end of her dock that Gatsby used to reach his hand out tremulously in the early chapters. Well, yellow and blue make green. So these two men are fighting over Daisy, but blue is an alpha male color. It's the dominant of the two colors. If you put in too much blue and not enough yellow, you're not going to get green. So foreshadowing through color imagery that Tom's going to get the girl. All right, here's the movie clip.
Shall we take my car? Is it a standard shift? Yes. Then why don't you let me take your car? You take mine. There's not much gas, I'm afraid. Oh, there's plenty of gas. And if we run out, we can always stop at a drugstore. You can buy almost anything at a drugstore nowadays. You ought to know that. Daisy, you come on ride with me here in the circus wagon.
No, you take Nick and Jordan. We'll follow.
Did you see that?
Did I see what?
I've made a small investigation of this fellow, you know.
And found he was an Oxford man.
Oxford like hell. He wears a goddamn pink suit.
Also worthy of mentioning, Gatsby is wearing a pink suit, and that's pretty effeminate. Although Gatsby's probably proud to wear it and handsome as all get out, but still. So when they arrive into the Valley of Ashes, Gatsby mentioned to Tom that, hey, my car needs gas. And so they pull in, and there's Myrtle locked up in her room. The movie doesn't show this. I'm going to show you the scene where we see Wilson, and he's sick and sad and pathetic. And we haven't seen Wilson, really, or Myrtle since many, many chapters ago. But Myrtle, her eyes are fading from above, and she sees Jordan, who she assumes is Daisy. She's never actually seen Daisy, and her eyes are wide with jealous terror. But her eyes watching parallels the eyes of T.J. Eckelberg. So we've had so many motifs of watching and eyes keeping their vigil. And so Myrtle's watching, the eyes of T.J. Eckelberg are watching. And Wilson still doesn't know that Tom is the one who's been cheating. But he does know that she has been having an affair.
Myself.
I'm sorry. Miss Buchanan, I was wondering when you'd let me have that blue car of yours.
How do you like this one? I bought it last week.
It's a nice yellow one.
Like to buy it, would you?
Big chance. No, but I could use the other. I need money pretty bad right now. My wife and I want to go west.
Your wife wants to go?
I just got wised up to something funny the last few days. That's why that's why I want to go away. That's why I've been bothering you about that car.
That's enough gas. How much do I owe you?
$1.20.
let you have that car. I'll send it around tomorrow afternoon.
So in this moment, Tom realizes he's about to lose his grip on both women. He's about to lose both Myrtle and Daisy, and it scares him a little. And so he speeds on in to the city, and this is where the fight scene happens between him and Gatsby and Daisy. But really, you might have noticed the men just mansplain all over Daisy. They don't give her much of a chance to talk. So real quick, page 125, when they're in the Plaza Hotel, there's a wedding going on downstairs. So that's a little extra side note. Kind of ironic if you think about how this novel craps on marriages. And Jordan says, well, we'll meet you. I'll be the man smoking 2 cigarettes. Remember earlier I had mentioned that Jordan is sometimes characterized with a masculine connotation. So while they're all chilling in this Plaza Hotel and it's really hot and they're sipping on mint juleps, Tom comes right out and challenges Gatsby and his authenticity. So, are you really an Oxford man? And Gatsby gives him an honest response. Now, we did get some backstory about Gatsby from Nick in the previous chapter, but this is the rest of the story, really. So Gatsby says that it was 1919 and that he was allowed to go to Oxford as part of the armistice from the war, and he only stayed there 5 months. Well, if you remember back to when we had our Daisy flashback through Jordan's eyes, that the reason it only lasted 5 months is because he was desperate to return home. Daisy was getting married to Tom. She wasn't going to wait for Gatsby anymore. And so he didn't spend the rest of his time getting his education. He did whatever he could to get out and return home. But just the acknowledgement that he did go to Oxford, even for a short time, puts faith in Nick. I wanted to get up and slap him on the back. I had a renewal of complete faith in him. So that was reassuring to Nick that, okay, Gatsby's not a total liar, you know. So Tom gets up and he says, okay, I want to ask Gatsby one more question. What kind of row are you trying to cause in my house anyway? So I'm going to pause here and let some of the fight scene take place through the movie clip, and then I'll be back.
Your wife doesn't love you. She's never loved you. She loves me.
You must be crazy.
The only reason she married you was because I was poor, and she was tired of waiting. And that was a mistake. But in her heart, she's never loved anyone except me.
That's a goddamn lie. Sit down, Jordan. Nick, Daisy loved me when she married me, and she loves me now.
No.
And what's more, I love her now. Now, I'll admit that every now and then she gets a little confused and gets involved in things she doesn't really understand. But I also have been known to go off on a spree or two in my life and make a goddamn fool of myself, but I have always come back. And in my heart, I always love her.
You are revolting. Do you remember why we left Chicago? Huh? I'm surprised you don't tell the story of that little spree of yours.
Nancy, just tell him the truth. Just tell him. Tell him you never loved him, and it'll all be wiped out forever.
What?
Tell him.
But the fight continues when Gatsby says, I'm trying to tell you what's going on, Tom. It's been going on for 5 years. And Tom says, you've been seeing this fellow for 5 years? And Gatsby, not Daisy, responds, well, not seeing, no, we couldn't meet. But we both loved each other the whole time, old sport, and you didn't know. I used to laugh sometimes to think that you didn't know. And then Tom's like, you're crazy. He says, I can't speak to what happened 5 years ago because I didn't know Daisy then, but I'll be damned if you got within a mile of her unless you brought groceries to the back door. So it all comes down to social class. He says, Daisy loved me when she married me, and she loves me now. Now, all Gatsby wants is for Daisy to say, I never loved you, Tom. But as is proof with Pammy, she can't say that. There was love. And she says, well, I can't help what's past. I love you now. Isn't that enough? But I did love him once, and I love you too. And Gatsby says, you love me too? He cannot accept that Tom is any sort of real part of Daisy's life. She's not gonna leave. She's not gonna leave the comfort and security of her husband. And especially when Tom follows up with the results of his investigation of Gatsby. He says, and I'm at the bottom of 133, I found out what your drugstores were. He and this Wolfsheim bought up a lot of side street drugstores here and in Chicago, and they're selling alcohol over the counter. So sure enough, Gatsby's a bootlegger in the 1920s. We know that Tom has won when on page 135 he says, okay, Daisy, Gatsby, you two go on home in Gatsby's car. That's how much that Tom knows that Daisy's not going anywhere. Daisy's secure in his grasp, that he can let them run off, the both of them, in Gatsby's car together, and he doesn't have to worry anymore. And in fact, he says, go on, he won't annoy you. I think he realizes this presumptuous little flirtation is over. This is a really funny part in the scene, because we've talked about how Gatsby's the protagonist, and the Gatsby-Daisy romance is what's captivated our interest. We barely even notice Nick and Jordan. But Nick barely even notices himself, because in this moment he's like, I just realized today's my birthday. Oh, poor Nick. He's 30. This is a big deal. It's a big birthday, but who cares, right? All he cares about is Daisy and Gatsby. And it's kind of sad. It reminds me of the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock on the bottom of 135. It's 30. The promise of a decade of loneliness. A thinning list of single men to know. A thinning briefcase of enthusiasm. Thinning hair. So it makes me think of Prufrock. It also makes me continue to wonder about Nick's sexuality. A thinning list of single men to know. Anyway, so the chapter ends with a car accident, and we've had some car accident foreshadowing before. You might remember Tom had been in a car accident with his chambermaid in a flashback, and there was a car accident right after one of Gatsby's parties that involved that Owl Eyes guy. Well, this accident is pretty serious. Daisy's been driving, and she hits Myrtle. Myrtle is dead. So we meet a new guy, a new character, Michaelis. He's a Greek coffee shop owner in the same little spot where the Valley of Ashes is and where the garage, Wilson's garage, is. And Wilson is breaking down. And we don't actually see the accident. We just see Tom, Nick, and Jordan arrive on the scene. And here is a movie clip of that so that you can see it for yourself.
G. Could you listen to me?
What do you want, fella?
I want to know what happened.
An auto hitter, instantly killed. She ran into the road. Son of a bitch didn't even stop his car.
There was 2 cars. One coming, one going, see?
Going where?
Oh, God. Oh, one going each way. Oh, God. Oh, God. God.
We wonder what prompted Myrtle to run out into the street. Was she trying to escape Wilson? Did she see the yellow car and remember from when Tom was driving it earlier in the afternoon? Was she running out to get Tom? It's hard to know what Myrtle was thinking before she died. Also, Daisy was driving. Was Daisy aiming at Myrtle, trying to get rid of her husband's mistress? Was it just a sheer accident of carelessness? We don't know the answers to those questions, but regardless, a yellow car has been involved in a hit and run, and everybody knows Gatsby's yellow car. So this can't be good. And Tom, oddly, even though Tom is such an annoying, horrible character, he takes charge on page 140. He gets in and faces up with Wilson, and he says, look, you've got to pull yourself together, with soothing gruffness. What an interesting, contradictory sort of oxymoron there. He picks up Wilson like a doll, and he sets him down with his authoritative arms. And he just sort of takes charge of the situation and calms Wilson down for the moment. And then when they start heading back home, Tom starts to cry. He shows a moment of actual sympathy. And he says, that goddamn coward, he didn't even stop his car. So Tom's under the impression that Gatsby killed Myrtle. And that also can't be good. At the end of the scene, Nick has dumped Jordan. You know, he snubs her and doesn't want to have anything to do with her. And Gatsby's been stalking Daisy in her yard. The luminosity of his pink suit under the moon. Through the window, we get final evidence that the ruse between Gatsby and Daisy is over. Daisy and Tom are sitting opposite of each other with at the kitchen table with a plate of cold fried chicken between them and 2 bottles of ale. His hand fell upon and covered her own. It was a natural intimacy, as if they were conspiring together. So she can rest in Tom's authority and his money. and sort of escape back into their wealth together. As Nick leaves, Gatsby's going to stay there all night and watch through, you know, in their yard to make sure Daisy's okay. And Nick refers to it as the sacredness of the vigil. So we've got Gatsby watching Daisy. We had Myrtle watching the yellow car down below, and we have the eyes of T.J. Eckelberg. So a lot of watching going on. Just real interesting, kind of ominous end to this chapter. I wonder what will happen next. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.